So, solution to critical section problem. There is mutual exclusion, progress, and bounded waiting. We have seen it in the previous part. So, next is critical section handling in OS. So, there are two approaches depending on if kernel is primitive or not primitive. If it is primitive, then it allows the preemption of the process when running in kernel mode, and if it is non-primitive, then it runs until exist kernel mode, blocks or voluntarily eats CPU. Essentially, it is free of race condition in kernel mode. So, critical section, a shared resource, is known as a critical resource. The portion of the program that uses a critical resource is known as a critical section of the program. It is necessary that only a program should be allowed to enter its critical section. In case of an input-output device, we want that only one process should have control over it. This is necessary for avoiding a race condition. In case of shared memory, the shared file or the shared anything, it is necessary to prohibit more than one process from reading and writing the shared data at the same time. This is also known as mutual exclusion. The mutual exclusion is a method of making sure that if one process is using a shared variable or a file, then the other process will be excluded from doing the same thing. If we find a method such that no two processes are ever in their critical section at the same time, we can avoid the race condition. Next is synchronization hardware. Many systems provide hardware support for implementing the critical section code. All solutions below based on the idea of locking. So the protecting critical regions via locks. Uniprocessors, it could disable interrupts. Currently running code would execute without prevention, generally too efficient on multiprocessor system. Operating system using this not broadly scalable. The modern machines provide special automatic hardware instruction. So either test memory word and set value or swap contents of two memory words. So the solution to the critical section problem using lock is shown here, that is acquire lock critical section, again release lock and reminder section. Next point is semaphore. So it is a synchronization tool which provide more sophisticated ways for process to synchronize their activities. So semaphore S is an integer variable. It can only be accessed via two indivisible, that is atomic operation, wait and signal, originally called P0 or not 0, P bracket and V bracket. Definition of wait operation is wait in bracket S while S is less than equal to 0, busy wait. So definition of signal operation is signal in bracket S plus plus. So the semaphore as a synchronization tool was proposed by Dijkstra. In almost every operating system, semaphore are used for the synchronization. Semaphore is a variable which accepts non-negative integer value and except initialization, it may be accessed and manipulated through two primitive operations, wait and signal. A semaphore may be initialized to a non-negative value. The wait operation decrements the semaphore value. If the value becomes negative, then the process executing the wait is blocked and it is put in a queue of waiting process. The signal operation increments the semaphore value. If the value is less than equal to 0, then the process blocked by a wait operation is removed from the waiting queue and sent to the ready queue. So both wait and signal are assumed to be atomic. Each function is treated as an indivisible step. Checking the value, changing it, and possibly setting blocked is all done as a single indivisible atomic action. Next is the semaphore usage. A counting semaphore and binary semaphore. Counting semaphore, integer value can range over an unrestricted domain. Binary semaphore, an integer value can range only between 0 and 1. It is same as a mutex lock. It can solve various synchronization problems. Consider P1 and P2 that require S1 to happen before S2. So create a semaphore sync initialized to 0. So P1 as signal synchronize, P2 wait synchronize S. It can implement a counting semaphore S as a binary semaphore. Next is semaphore implementation. The must guarantee that no two processes can execute the wait and the signal on the same semaphore at the same time. Thus, the implementation becomes a critical section problem where the wait and signal code are placed in a critical section. It could now have a busy waiting in critical section implementation, but implementation code is short. It is little busy waiting if critical section rarely occupied. Now note that applications may spend a lots of time in the critical section, and therefore this is not a good solution. Next is semaphore implementation with no busy waiting. With each semaphore there is an associated waiting queue. Each entry in a waiting queue has two data items. One is value, that is of type integer, and second is pointer to next record in the list. So there are two operations, block and backup. Place the process invoking the operation on the appropriate waiting queue, and remove one of the process in the waiting queue and place it in a ready queue. So mutual exclusion using semaphore is straightforward. Each process executes wait before entering its critical section. S is semaphore. If the value of S becomes negative, then the process is suspended. If the value of S remains non-negative, then it enters its critical section. Each process executes a signal S after exciting its critical section. If there is a block process, it is put in the ready queue. If there is no block process, then S is incremented by 1. Then IPC problems. Some classical problems faced in concurrent processing are producer-consumer problem, readers-writers problem, and the dining philosophers problem. Next is the deadlock and starvation. So, deadlock first. There are two or more processes are waiting indefinitely for an event that can be caused by only one of the waiting process. Consider S and Q be the two semaphores initialized to 1. So starvation means indefinite blocking, that is a process may never be removed from the semaphore queue in which it is suspended. A priority inversion is scheduling problem when lower priority process holds a lock needed by higher priority process, solved via priority inheritance protocol. Now introduction to deadlock. In multi-programming environment, several processes may compete for a fixed number of resources. A process requests a resource, and if the resource is not available at that time, then it enters a wait state. It may happen that it will never gain access to the resource. If that resource is being held by other waiting process, a set of processes is deadlocked if each process is waiting for a resource that is held by deadlock process. So, there are basically four conditions for the deadlock. The four conditions must hold for a deadlock to be possible. The first condition is mutual exclusion condition. Here, each resource is either free or assigned to exactly one process. Second, hold and wait condition. Here, a process may hold allocated resources while waiting for the allocation of the other resources. Third one, no preemption condition. Here, resources previously cannot be forcibly taken away from a process. The fourth one, circular wait condition. There must exist a closed chain of processes, each of which is waiting for a resource held by the next member of the chain. So these four conditions can be modeled using a directed graph. The graph have two kinds of nodes, the processes shown by the circle and the resources shown as a squares. An arc from a resource node, that is square, to a process node circle means that the resource is currently being held by the process. An arc from the process node circle to a resource node square, it means that the process is making a request for the resource. So the process P1 is holding the resource R1 and making a request for the resource R2. So in general, there are four strategies that are used for dealing with deadlock. Just ignore the problem altogether. Second, detection and recovery. Third one, dynamic and avoidance by a careful resource allocation. And fourth one, prevention by negating one of the four necessary conditions. So next part, dealing with deadlock detection and recovery, resource allocation, recovery through killing process. All these points we will see in the next lecture.